Some people think they can scatter thorns in your path and walk away untouched. What they never understand is that life itself is a master craftsman of balance. Every thorn thrown becomes a crown of lessons for the one targeted and a bed of spikes for the thrower. This isn't superstition, it's a law as old as motion itself. Every force meets an equal counterforce. Those who plot your fall are already building the pit they'll stumble into. They call it strategy, but you're about to watch fate turn their playbook into a confession. Critics and schemers have spent months sketching maps of your life like military tacticians plotting an invasion. They thought they were clever chess masters, but each move only revealed their own weakness, their own obsessions, their own cracks. They recruited personalities like guided missiles to hit you, but missiles launched without conscience always drift back to the sender. What they designed as your ending has become the architecture of their own collapse. Chosen one, your power isn't just survival. It's the quiet force that haunts your enemies at night, the echo they can't silence. While they're drowning in the chaos they created, you're building immunity, clarity, and a future too vast for their reach. Like iron forged in fire, every attack only hardens you. If this message strikes a chord, like and subscribe now. This is how we build a movement of people who turn sabotage into fuel. The path ahead is yours to claim, a place where your rise becomes the very proof that no weapon formed against you can prevail. Before we dive into this revelation, pause for a moment. What you're about to hear isn't just another story. It's the hidden truth behind why your enemies are crumbling in public while you rise in private. This is the kind of knowledge that changes how you see every attack and every betrayal. If you're ready to watch their shame become your elevation, hit that like button now, subscribe so more chosen ones can awaken, and drop 99 in the comments to anchor this energy and mark your place in this movement. Stay with me until the end, because what's coming next will show you exactly why their downfall is only the beginning of your unstoppable rise. Number 1. Spot the master plan before it blows up in their faces. While your enemies believed they were engineering your downfall, they were unknowingly drafting the blueprint of their own collapse. Every strategy session they held, every diagram of your life they sketched out like crime scene investigators, was in fact a confession of their deepest fears. The longer they obsessed over your patterns, the clearer their own became. They thought they were identifying your weaknesses. In reality, they were exposing their own soft spots like open wounds. Each note they took, each scenario they rehearsed, was a mirror they couldn't stop looking into. And what stared back wasn't you, it was them. Their recruitment process was as cold and clinical as a laboratory experiment. They wanted a weapon, a personality precise enough to strike and unstable enough to be controlled. They sifted through people like a casting call for villains, searching for someone with the perfect mix of ruthlessness and charm. They didn't realize that by describing their ideal candidate, they were painting a self-portrait with every stroke. The so-called narcissist they hired was not a separate entity, but an exaggerated echo of their own shadows, more shameless, more hungry for power, more reckless than even they had dared to be. They called it screening. In reality, it was self-exposure. Tests for cruelty, rehearsals for manipulation, drills for deception. They were essentially interviewing their own replacement. They thought they were selecting an assassin. What they found was a mirror held at a monstrous angle. The very qualities they prized, lack of empathy, thirst for domination, and indifference to consequences, were the same flaws that would soon devour them from within. And then came the moment of connection, the instant they believed they'd discovered their ultimate weapon. But it wasn't a recruitment. It was a handshake with their own future demise. Predators recognized predators. The narcissist didn't just understand their tactics, they surpassed them. They weren't absorbing orders, they were studying prey. They weren't impressed by the handlers. They were taking notes on their weaknesses, storing every detail for the day it would all be turned upside down. They mistook similarity for loyalty. They thought shared darkness meant shared purpose. They didn't realize that monsters don't serve, they consume. What they unleashed wasn't a soldier, but a wildfire, a force too unpredictable to leash. Every secret handed over became ammunition. Every plan whispered in private became leverage. Every weakness revealed became a future threat. What they thought was your destruction was actually their initiation into self-destruction. They designed a trap, but it was calibrated for themselves. They imagined they'd found a weapon to use on you. Instead, they built a weapon that reflected their own sickness and amplified it until it exploded. And while their storm gathered, you, the chosen one, stood still, watching them architect their own downfall with the same precision they thought they were using to dismantle you. Number 2. Expose the war rooms, mapping your life, and flip the script. Behind closed doors, they huddle like generals planning an invisible war. Maps of your life cover their tables, your friendships marked like supply lines, your routines plotted like invasion routes. They whisper about you as if you're a target, not realizing they're sketching the blueprint of their own humiliation. Every arrow they draw, every strategy they script, every fake smile they plan to weaponize becomes a confession of how obsessed they are with you. They think they're in control. In reality, they're building a public stage where their shame will be broadcast for everyone to see. Chosen one, this is where your quiet power flips the script. You don't charge into their war rooms, you let their obsession expose them. While they're busy rehearsing lines for a play about your destruction, you're living unscripted, authentic, unpredictable, untouchable. Your very existence scrambles their plans. They want you reactive, instead you're reflective. They want you cornered, instead you're moving freely. Every hour they spend dissecting your life is an hour their own lives unravel in plain sight. And when their schemes inevitably leak, as they always do, it's not you under the microscope. It's them, red-faced and trembling, dying of shame and embarrassment in front of everyone who once believed their act. The war room becomes a courtroom. Their strategy becomes evidence. Their whispers become confessions. Without lifting a finger, you've turned their private plotting into a public reckoning. This is the power of the chosen, to let enemies build their own trap and then watch, calm and centered as they fall into it. Their attempt to map your life ends up mapping their downfall instead. Their war rooms collapse into mirrors, and the only face they see is their own. Number 3. Identify the narcissist weapon early and disarm them fast. The fastest way to make your enemies choke on their own schemes is to spot their weapon before it's even aimed. They will always try to sneak a smiling saboteur into your life, someone who appears harmless but is actually a carrier of their poison. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Chosen ones learn to see the signature moves long before the strike lands, the rehearsed empathy, the too perfect concern, the questions that dig a little too deep. Think of it like a stage play. The moment you recognize an actor reading lines instead of living them, the performance collapses. The narcissist sent to infiltrate your world depends on you believing the act. Once you see the script, the power flips. They need your confusion to function. You only need clarity to dismantle them. Disarming doesn't mean arguing, exposing, or confronting. It means starving them of what they came for, your reactions, your secrets, your energy. A guided missile without a target simply circles back to sender. When you stop feeding them information and attention, they malfunction, panic, and inevitably reveal who sent them. And when that happens, the handlers lose their cover and start tasting the shame they planned for you. Chosen ones don't win by being louder, they win by being sharper. By spotting the weapon early, you turn their grand plot into a public embarrassment, a spectacle where their own masterpiece becomes the proof of their weakness. This is how you walk through traps without a scratch, by knowing the trap exists before it's sprung. Every time you do this, you're not just surviving, you're teaching your enemies a lesson they can't unlearn. Your awareness is their humiliation. Number 4. Recognize predators, recognizing you, and break the cycle. The moment you realize that predators are recognizing you is the moment you've already shifted the power dynamic. Chosen one, understand this. Their stares aren't admiration, they're calculations. Their smiles aren't warmth, they're scans for weak spots. They circle you like vultures, rehearsing how to pick you apart, believing their timing is flawless. What they never factor in is that your awareness itself is a weapon. You don't just see them, you see through them. This is where the cycle breaks. The instant you stop mistaking attention for approval, the illusion cracks. Predators thrive on being unseen, camouflaged, underestimated, misread. But when your gaze locks on theirs with calm recognition, it's like shining a spotlight on a thief mid-heist. Masks slip, confidence evaporates. The same people who thought they were hunting you begin to stumble over their own schemes, exposed in front of everyone they hope to impress. And here's the irony that burns them most. Their attempts to shame you become their own public humiliation. Their tactics don't just fail, they boomerang. The very performance they staged to discredit you ends up revealing their true character to the audience they wanted to deceive. Breaking the cycle isn't about fighting or reacting. It's about refusing to play the role they wrote for you, walking off the stage they built, and letting them perform their downfall solo. This quiet reversal is why they're dying of shame and embarrassment now, because nothing is more humiliating to a predator than a prey who won't cooperate. Your awareness robs them of their script, their power, their disguise. That's the chosen one's advantage. You don't just survive the hunt, you end it. Number 5. Stop feeding monsters that will eventually devour their masters. Stop feeding monsters that will eventually devour their masters. Chosen one, this is the exact mistake your enemies made when they built their attack against you. In their desperation, they tried to create a weapon, nurture a force, and unleash it on you as if you were prey. But a monster fed with secrets, strategies, and obsession doesn't stay a pet for long. It becomes a predator with its own appetite. And right now, those who plotted against you are choking on the very beast they fed. They thought that by stacking lies, training manipulators, and weaponizing cruelty, they could break your will. Instead, every crumb of information they gave out became ammunition for their own destruction. The narcissist they raised like a prized fighter is now exposing their private schemes, turning their tactics into leverage and dragging their names through public humiliation. They're dying of shame in front of everyone, not because you struck back, but because their own monster has turned on them. This is the power of your path. You don't have to match their darkness to win. You simply let them overfeed their own creation until it becomes unmanageable. While they scramble to contain the chaos they birthed, you rise untouched, stronger and more visible than ever. Every trap they built now looks like a confession. Every tactic they taught now looks like a mirror. Remember this lesson, chosen one. Monsters never stay loyal. The more your enemies feed them, the faster they collapse under their own schemes, and the clearer your victory becomes. Number 6. Decode their obsession through profiles and use it against them. They spent nights building files about you as if they were intelligence agencies preparing for war. Every habit logged, every relationship dissected, every trigger analyzed. They thought their obsession made them powerful, but it only turned them transparent. Chosen one, when someone studies you that closely, they leave fingerprints all over their own motives. Their profiles are not your weakness, they are their confession. Each note reveals what they fear most. Each diagram shows what they envy. Each plan exposes the cracks they're desperate to hide. This is where your advantage begins. You don't need to hack their systems or dig through their messages. You already hold the key. By calmly watching how they watch you, you decode their strategy without lifting a finger. Like a chess grandmaster who memorizes the opponent's openings, you can see 10 moves ahead while they think you're still on the first square. The beauty of their obsession is that it becomes your map, not of your vulnerabilities, but of theirs. And when the moment comes, you don't have to strike. You simply allow their own data to boomerang back. Their secret scripts start to sound rehearsed. Their carefully timed encounters reveal their staging. The more they try to handle you, the more obvious their desperation becomes. What they thought was a weapon turns into a mirror, reflecting every manipulative impulse back at them in full view of everyone. This is why they're dying of shame and embarrassment in public. They've exposed themselves as architects of a failed operation, while you remain unshaken, turning their surveillance into your silent advantage. Number 7. Watch for improvisation, grow stronger, and outmaneuver it. Chosen one, here is where the enemy always miscalculates. They believe they can script your downfall like a stage play, giving their puppet, the narcissist, a neat set of lines to recite. But darkness has no discipline. Soon, improvisation begins. The narcissist adds their own spin, twists the plot, and takes liberties beyond the original design. They start enjoying the destruction too much, turning the operation into their personal theater of cruelty. What was meant to look flawless begins to look sloppy, reckless, and embarrassingly obvious. And here is where your true power awakens. Every unscripted move becomes a signal you detect. Every sudden shift exposes the hand behind the curtain. While they think you're confused, you're actually collecting data, strengthening your instincts, and sharpening your perception. Attacks that were supposed to weaken you are transformed into training sessions. Each manipulation only teaches you how to spot it faster, dismantle it cleaner, and rise above it stronger. Meanwhile, their improvisation is their undoing. They can't stick to the plan because malice is never satisfied. The more they deviate, the more careless they become. The more reckless they act, the more shame and embarrassment follow. They wanted to showcase your destruction, but the spotlight has swung back on them. What they believed to be clever improvisation has become evidence of desperation, visible for everyone to see. So while their schemes unravel, you, the chosen one, grow untouchable. You adapt, you outmaneuver, and you leave them trapped in their own performance, humiliated under the very spotlight they tried to place on you. Their improvisation doesn't break you, it buries them in disgrace. Number 8. Unmask coordinated campaigns and turn awareness into power. Chosen one, every whisper, every sudden coincidence, every strangely timed interaction you felt wasn't random, it was choreography. They built an invisible stage around you, scripting scenes meant to corner you, confuse you, or make you doubt your instincts. But in their obsession to map your every move, they left their own fingerprints all over the play. Their secret coordination is now nothing but a trail of neon arrows pointing back to them, and it's unraveling in real time. They're not just being exposed, they're being exposed publicly, humiliated by the precision of their own mistakes. When you start to see the pattern, it's like flipping on a light in a room full of cockroaches. They scatter. The same strategies meant to break you now become your instruction manual on how they think, how they operate, and where they're weak. Awareness is your power, your silent weapon. You're not reacting anymore. You're observing, collecting, waiting, and that patience terrifies them more than any confrontation ever could. Their coordinated campaigns, once hidden under a mask of coincidence, now look ridiculous and clumsy. People around them notice the cracks, the timing, the forced narratives. The more they push, the more obvious it becomes who's behind it. Their credibility evaporates, while yours grows stronger. They are dying of shame and embarrassment in front of everyone, their reputations melting while you stand untouched. Remember this: being chosen isn't just about surviving sabotage, it's about transforming it into fuel for your rise. What they plotted as your downfall has become the stage of their own collapse. Their campaign is your classroom, your awareness is the graduation, and as you ascend, they crumble under the weight of their own exposure. Number 9. Master strategic silence to starve manipulators of fuel. Chosen one, silence is not weakness. It is the sharpest blade in your arsenal. The people plotting against you thrive on noise, drama, and reaction. They bait you with insults, provoke you with staged coincidences, and wait for the explosion that will validate their lies. But when you don't give them what they crave, you cut off their oxygen. Without your reaction, their schemes suffocate in plain sight. You're no longer the target in their theater. You're the director pulling the plug on the spotlight. Every word you don't speak becomes a mirror. Every moment you don't react reflects their own ugliness back at them. They begin to unravel publicly, revealing the desperation behind their performance. While you remain composed, they stumble, contradict themselves, and show their real faces to the world. What they wanted to be, your humiliation, becomes their public shame. Their attempts to drag you into chaos turn into a slow-motion self-exposure that everyone can see. Strategic silence doesn't mean surrender. It means discipline, control, and an understanding of how power truly works. You're forcing your enemies to wrestle with their own shadows while you conserve your strength for real victories. They thought they could script your downfall. Instead, they're starring in a live broadcast of their own embarrassment. This is the power of being a chosen one. Your restraint haunts them louder than any retaliation ever could. Your stillness becomes their stage of shame. And while they burn out on the fuel of their own lies, you ascend quietly, untouchable and unstoppable, the living proof that composure is the ultimate revenge. Number 10. Detect cracks in alliances and let power shift to you. Chosen one of your greatest advantages is not brute force, but perception, the ability to see the invisible fault lines running beneath their alliances. These people gathered like architects of chaos, binding themselves together with whispered promises and shared hatred. But hatred is a weak glue. It cracks under pressure, and when it cracks, it doesn't just split quietly, it explodes in public. That's why you're now watching them die of shame and embarrassment before the very crowd they tried to impress. When alliances are built on manipulation and fear, their foundations are already unstable. The moment results don't come fast enough, or the plan doesn't go as scripted, fingers start pointing, secrets start leaking, and loyalty evaporates. This is your arena. You don't have to fight. You simply observe. Each insult they throw at each other, each rumor they leak to shift blame, is another crack widening. Think of it as a dam bursting. At first, it's just a hairline fracture, barely noticeable. But once the water starts seeping through, there's no stopping the flood. Your silence and composure act like gravity, pulling their weaknesses to the surface, accelerating their implosion. Power isn't seized in this moment. It shifts naturally to the one who stayed calm, the one who never had to lie or scheme. By the time they realize their alliance has become a cage, you've already stepped into a higher ground, untouchable and radiant. Their embarrassment becomes your elevation, their shame your proof. This is how a chosen one wins, not by wrestling in the mud, but by letting opponents reveal their own ugliness until standing next to you makes their collapse obvious to everyone. Number 11. Harness their rampage and let total exposure work for you. They explode into chaos, reflexively tearing everything down around them. Perfect. Let them. The rage you fear is the same instrument that will carve their names into public disgrace. When a narcissist and their handlers choose scorched earth tactics, they hand you an arsenal of evidence, contradictions, and raw emotion. Your job is not to match their fury, it's to channel it. Harness their rampage like a general uses enemy artillery. Map its trajectories, collect the shrapnel, and let the blast reveal precisely who built the weapon. Chosen one, watch how their frantic strikes create a trail of breadcrumbs, leaked messages, contradictory statements, frantic denials, and self-incriminating boasts. Those are not setbacks, they are receipts. Where they try to bury truth, their frenzy digs it up. When they scream the loudest, observers start listening more closely. When they overreach, their mask splits. Exposure doesn't require your vengeance. It requires your restraint, your attention, and your readiness to turn chaos into public clarity. Turn every public meltdown into an exhibit. Catalog the patterns, timestamp the lies, highlight the inconsistencies. Share only what solidifies your integrity. Documented facts over emotion. Let their outbursts be the footage that neutral witnesses replay, the case study that turns gossip into verdict. While they punish themselves with spectacle, you rebuild reputation with precision. Most importantly, keep your center. Their rampage is a furnace that tempers you, not a storm that drowns you. As they burn through allies and credibility, you step forward with calm competence. The fallout becomes your vindication. The embarrassment that consumes them becomes the proof that you were never the target. They were their own casualties from the start. They thought they'd humiliate you. Instead, their public collapse writes your vindication in bold. Chosen ones, stand back and watch. They are dying of shame and embarrassment in front of everyone. And from that spectacle, your rise becomes inevitable. Number 12. Transform attacks into elevation and become untouchable. Every strike they launch at you is meant to bruise, but for the chosen one, every hit is raw material for power. What they see as an attack, you treat as training. Each insult becomes a sharpened instinct. Each betrayal becomes a deeper layer of self-control. Every attempt to pull you down is actually a stair they unknowingly build for you to climb higher. They throw stones, you build a fortress. They pour poison, you distill an antidote. That's how you move from merely surviving to becoming untouchable. Chosen ones don't wait for fairness. They create advantage out of chaos. When someone tries to smear your name, you respond by strengthening your work so much that the smear looks ridiculous. When someone blocks an opportunity, you create a better one and make their obstruction irrelevant. When someone exposes your private pain, you transform it into public wisdom that inspires others. In doing so, you rob them of their weapon and turn it into your badge. The key is detachment without indifference. You're not numb, you're strategic. You see patterns forming long before they land a blow. You use their tactics to inoculate yourself against future attacks. You become a living example of a principle that terrifies manipulators. Nothing you do can harm me without my consent. That's the invisible shield they can't penetrate. And as you rise, something strange happens. Their hostility turns into their own humiliation. Their plots turn into your platforms. Their obsession turns into your proof. You don't even have to defend yourself anymore. Your results speak louder than their accusations. This is how chosen ones operate, transform attacks into elevation. And one day, you'll look back to realize you've become exactly what they feared most, untouchable, unbreakable, and out of their reach forever. And so we arrive at the inevitable ending, chosen one, the stage where their downfall is undeniable and your rise is no longer a question but a fact. The shame they tried to bury you in has turned into their public coffin, and the embarrassment they wished upon you now lives on their faces. Your silence, your patience, and your strength have written a story they can never erase. If you felt the power in this message, take action now. Hit that like button, subscribe to join the movement, drop 99 in the comments to seal your presence, and share this with another chosen one who needs to hear it.